attack me with all of your might or all your strength. What was the quote?
All of your strength.
All of your strength.
All of your might, strength.
Well,
What is the quote?
In my defense, I want to start by defending
Let me hear your
myself.
defense.
Before I defend anything else, I will defend myself and say,
Defend it.
we didn't get the podcast last week.
We
and
did
I
not.
tried
True.
to pull something from a previous episode, and
I tried to push you to Yord,
yes.
but you went
That's
with
true.
I
you
didn't
went
want to
with
start with
Mae.
my shirt off, and I was ironing my
Yeah.
Yeah.
suit, but,
Yord.
Put your shirt
Classic.
on.
but I should have.
Dare I say classic Yord move.
Classic
by the way.
Yord.
Horde.
It is so
Yord Horde.
Yord Horde. Yord Horde.
We are-
Welcome
we are-
back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. Off the rails, as we do.
Oh,
We are your hosts, as always, Mike.
Hello there.
Myself, Nate. Hello there. And you know him well. Yord.
No, that's not Yord. That's Uncle.
Uncle.
Watch the podcast with all of your strength.
Yes.
Good
You
luck.
know him well.
I do
Uncle.
this too.
We couldn't be more excited to dive into Acolyte.
No.
Not only has this been long awaited, it
Years
was
in the
announced
waiting, yeah.
years ago.
Mhm.
And on top of all that, we had years to prep for this. And what happened? We couldn't podcast the first week. Things come up. But we are here
We
week
are-
2
Yeah.
to dive in, to review episodes 1 through 3. We're making predictions. We're doing the whole shebang, and we're ready to get after it. So with that said, as you guys listen, if you're watching this live, feel free to participate.
Please
Drop
do.
some comments. Drop some predictions in the chat. Let us know, even if there's a specific question or topic you have from the show.
Yeah.
We want to interact with you all. So if you're watching, drop that stuff in the comments, and we'll dive into that.
Who's your favorite character and why is it Kelnaka?
Yeah.
That's it.
And before we get too far, where's Max Rebo? No. Before we get too far, like the video,
Oh.
subscribe to the channel, and smash the noti bell so that you'll be here next week when we go live.
Smash the
But yeah, we're excited to dive into Acolyte. We usually start with overall thoughts, and we've got 3 episodes. So do we just want to lump it all together? What are we thinking?
Sure. We can overall. Or
Let's
unless-
lump it.
Let's lump it.
I'm
Let's
lumping.
lump it.
Lumpy. And
Lumpy. Yord.
I want to start off by having Uncle start off.
Yeah.
See what I did there?
I saw it.
You thought I was going to do one thing, and
And
then
you
I
did
switched
something
it,
else.
which is kind of what the show
and I
does
thought
a
I
lot.
was going
I
somewhere
It is.
else. Having said
Anakin
that,
in the chat
Said
says,
that
"Good
right.
morning, Captain Rex."
Good morning.
Welcome.
welcome.
Well,
I want to start by saying I like the show. I really like the show. There are some things I don't like, but I just want to be clear on that because there's some hate floating around.
Yeah.
yeah.
Not from me. I am
Yeah.
really enjoying it. The pacing of it has been great.
Yeah.
We're seeing various Jedi different attitudes and philosophies, even within the temple and the people we're seeing, which I think I was hoping to see that they're not all locked in the same
Yeah.
Yeah.
same lock and step, which I think is great. And we're also seeing some stuff that I question about the Jedi.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the last episode, I was fine with the pace of that. I love taking time to talk about. I think the acting has been among the best, really. The kids, I think, are doing phenomenal.
I thought the kids
I think
did great.
they think they're doing great. And the head mother,
Yes.
Oh,
Julie
yeah.
Turner-Smith,
unbelievable,
She was great.
so good.
She
Really
was great.
acting.
And there's been surprise twists with we thought Carrie Ann was going to be with us for a little while, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
And then I love they surprised us
And
again by
Dara.
saying she's gone, but now she's
But
back.
now she's back.
She's back.
because
Little
we go back in time.
little flashback. Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I've watched each of them twice. I don't always do that.
Yeah.
Every episode I've watched twice. So
So is that a testament because of how you like the show, or is it you just were rewatching it with the
think
kids,
it's-
or what?
partly, but I think it's also because everything is kind of new.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
it does
Jedi
feel
are
new.
there are Jedi, there are lightsabers, but everything is in a new space. These are new planets, all
Yeah.
new characters, uncharted territories.
yeah.
The Forces feels still raw in some ways, and
Mhm.
I'm really enjoying the show. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
I think
It's
part
great.
of what feels new too is just the nature of the style of the show being like a mystery thriller
Yes.
type. We haven't seen that in Star Wars,
No.
so at least not on screen.
Right.
And so even that within itself, the genre even feels new.
It's fun.
in
It's
some
some funny
ways.
stuff too.
Yeah.
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 There.
Jackie has made me laugh multiple times.
Yes,
Who?
yeah.
Who'd you say?
Jackie.
Jackie's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Jackie's great. am also really, really liking the show a lot. I know there are people, maybe even watching this, who don't have the same feeling. And we always say on our podcast, we will tell you the things we like. We will also tell you some stuff that we dislike, and we'll get to some stuff of maybe like not our favorite this or not our favorite that. Overall, I am really, really strongly liking the show a lot. And it's fine if you don't feel the same way. That's fine. So we're not trying to shove
It's
this
fine,
on you
but,
and saying.
But
Having said that,
Having
having
said that,
you will feel the same way.
wrong.
You will be exactly as I am.
no, no. Did I learn nothing from that episode we just watched?
Nothing.
You will be exactly as
control
I
You
am.
them
will
with
make
your
your decision
mind.
out of fear.
No. So what I
That's
was
the
going to get
one.
is echo.
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 I
You
echo
can't
the
not- you
same
can't not.
sentiments.
Have to do it.
Yeah, I agree
Okay.
with everything Uncle said. Some other things I'd like to point out too that I have loved is I love that this show was pitched to the audience as far as what we were told kind of initially was, murder mystery, like
Dark
thriller,
side.
dark side focused, seeing the Jedi from a dark side perspective, or seeing the Jedi from a dark side perspective, seeing kind of the High
Which I think we'll
Republic
get a
end
lot
of-
more of that.
Yeah, and I think we're already a lot of what we're getting is certainly from a perspective too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're intentionally giving us pieces and pieces.
Yep.
But things that I love also that have surprised me so much already, just 3 episodes in, have been the show is very smart in. I was worried that we were finding out too much too soon, almost at the beginning. Like they kind of set up like a big thing.
Yeah, the twin reveal
and
was.
the twin
yeah,
reveal was
yeah,
like,
right
oh,
away.
man.
But guess what? That's
Or-
not it.
and that's not the big.
that's
Or,
thing.
oh, who's killing Jedi? Well, they start off with the very first scene of showing us who's. I think it's the girl who just killed the Jedi.
Right.
Yeah. I
Right.
think
know
it's the
that.
one we're seeing kill the Jedi. It's gotta be.
And I love that the show, like it in the first episode, in the first couple episodes, it's like, yes, you just saw, this girl kill the Jedi, and okay, but then the twist is,
It's like-
okay, is it her or is it? But then she wakes up, and then there's this whole thing of,
Yeah.
oh, there's twins, and then you're like, oh, okay, now I've got to figure it out. And
The
then,
questions
and
that
then
are
you
being
get
asked
to
are
Torben.
answered.
Yeah.
You get to Torben, and you're like, a Jedi who is, first of all, taken the vow of silence for 10 years. He's floating there, and
Over guilt.
has so much guilt that we literally have never seen a Jedi who just down something to die.
Mm-mm.
And we're
Yeah.
like, whoa, what happened? And so then the big thing is, what happened all those years ago that was so horrible that he wakes up and says, I've been waiting for you. And like he knew this day was coming, and he could not get over this guilt. And then she gives him a way out, and he takes it. You're like, something horrible happened. And then
Yeah.
we're getting pieces of what's the story. And then the big surprise to me wasn't even about, I mean, there's stuff in this episode that we're going to get to, but then the surprise of the timing of, so I'm thinking, okay, so this season is about, let's find out what actually happened. And then the very next episode is episode 3, and they go, okay, here's what happened. And I was like, whoa.
Okay, not for the season.
But then by the end of the episode, I realized,
You
I
still
had
don't know.
some of what happened.
You still
It's
don't
like,
know.
yeah.
Still
It
don't.
leaves
They
you.
purposely take us down here, and this is what's happening, and then you hear an explosion, then you go over here, you turn your head, and then you go down here, and you go, oh, save this person, then you turn. How did they die?
What happened there?
What happened there?
And where are the
it's
other
this
Jedi?
great, like you feel
Yeah.
like you are in the investigation, or
Yeah.
you're in the thing, and you are like
It's only showing one perspective.
like a
It's good.
detective getting the pieces and writing them down and going, okay, so far we know he's this guilty. He feels this guilt, so we think there's something there. She's going after the 4 Jedi, so she blames them.
This
for
guy doesn't
something.
seem to know what's going on.
Soul doesn't think that
Which makes sense
she's
now because he
alive.
wasn't
Yeah.
there. He was
Yeah.
down.
Soul doesn't think
Soul
she's
doesn't even
alive.
think she's alive. Mae and Osha seem to not think each other are alive because neither of them were looking for each other.
Yeah.
To our knowledge, they both
Yeah.
seem surprised.
But
There's this
Torben
whole
knew.
thing, and then it's just what did the Jedi who were upstairs?
What actually happened
What
up
actually
there?
happened?
What
We'll
actually
get to all
happened? Yeah,
that, but
I think it'll
I
get
love it.
revealed. I
love
like
it.
what you're saying, though. It's like, I think right away there were some questions that we had just from the beginning of the nature of the show that were quickly, boom, addressed. The
Yeah.
twin, boom, they're
Yeah.
addressed. What happened? Oh, there was a fire, and she she started a fire and ended all of our family. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's kind of weird. You're addressing this. Okay. Now it's like as they're revealing and answering more things, they're also making me question more and more and more.
Yeah, because
because
Yeah.
of
there
the other
was a fire
perspectives.
that destroyed everything.
But that's not the
did
whole
it kill
story.
them? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how they
Yeah.
died? Is
And I
that-
do want to
is
get
what-
into that. I want to get to
Let's jump back.
the predictions
yeah,
at some
pull it back.
point.
Yeah.
But
Let's jump we're on 3.
I know.
yeah.
We'll go back
Let's
and
do
talk
it.
about
Yeah.
one.
Let's do it.
What did you guys like from Lost Found? What'd you like?
I'll just go real quick. I
Yeah,
won't go
yeah.
as long as
Yes or no?
last time. But I really, from the very first episode, I've really liked the show because it felt very, to me, similar how Andor felt very different from what we were getting on Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying this feels necessarily like Andor. I think there's parts of it that actually feel like Andor, but there's parts of it that feel like Ahsoka, and there's parts of it that feel very much like the prequels, which I really like the prequels.
Yeah.
And there's parts of it that actually, honestly, we talked about this a little bit before, Uncle and I did, that feels a little bit like The Last Jedi, of like, let's get into the actual philosophy of some
Yeah.
of these things,
Yeah.
that I really enjoy all those things that I mentioned. The
Why are we
pacing
doing what
of-
we're doing?
The pacing of it from the first episode, I was very happy that the premiere was 2 episodes
Yeah.
because I liked that they were taking their time. But I liked that episode 3, so this is kind of combining, but that episode 3 was very much a typically structured episode and not feel like here is a movie that we stretched into, you get a bit of it this week for an episode, which I think sometimes Disney Plus struggles with a little bit of feeling like I can tell parts of the Kenobi show, which I love,
Mm-hmm.
feels like this was a movie idea that then got stretched, and so then you get an episode that feels like this episode didn't necessarily have a conclusion to it or didn't
Yeah.
have a
Feels
where
like in the
this
middle of a story.
episode 3 felt like a beginning, a middle, and an end
Mm-hmm.
of the episode. Doesn't mean we know everything going forward.
Yeah.
But episode 1 and 2, I like that it took its time setting everything up.
Yeah.
But it starts off with a bang, and I really was invested with.
What
the
did you
Carrie Ann Moss
guys
stuff
What did you
right
guys
away.
Yeah.
think of the martial arts?
That was one of the things I was going to mention as
Yeah.
far as my
In the
first
first one.
thoughts on the show. I love the fighting style. I love it. I love the martial arts. I think what they're doing, and this maybe is why it feels connected to the prequels but different than the prequels, because the prequels were without a doubt the best choreographed lightsaber dueling
Yeah.
and fighting. But I think what they're highlighting here with the martial arts style of combat is the hubris of where the Republic or where the Jedi get to. Like, they're at a time right now where they really are we're going to find out there's going to be a fall. We're going to find out, they're going to make mistakes, right?
Mhm.
But they are highlighting that they're in a period of time where they seem to be following what it actually means to be a Jedi in terms of protection and defense. And they're portraying that on screen
Yes.
through the style of combat.
Yes.
And they even mention it through some of the dialogue. Like, oh, a Jedi doesn't draw their weapon unless they're ready to kill. Which we'll get into that with some of the predictions I have for moving forward after episode 3. But I think I really like it. I think when I'm watching that, it feels different. It feels new. It highlights, I think, even more of what's capable with the Force
Mm-hmm.
in utilizing that with combat. It's more than just pulling my lightsaber to grab it whenever I lose a handle of it, which is what we see in a lot in the
Yeah.
prequels.
Yeah.
It's actually a way of stopping, pushing. I mean, even the witches that we
Mhm.
see in episode 3 are highlighting this. Okay, now 2 are coming at me. How am I using the Force to push? It's not
Yeah.
always this just Jedi mind trick or something.
That's right.
I love it. I love the style of the combat. That's one of the highlights. Of
I think
where
it's been awesome. Yeah, and I want to mention that one point. The Jedi only pulls their weapon. That's what's Mae said that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
So we
yes.
go back to the Jedi stuff from The Last Jedi. She has an
Exactly.
understanding that it's based on
It's her
experience.
Yeah,
her
and I'll have
perspective.
to look at the exact quote, but I think she also mentioned something in terms
She
of
also
like,
said, we don't strike down. They say we don't
She's-
strike
we don't-
down an unarmed. And she's like, yes, you do.
Yes,
yeah,
you do.
that's what she said.
That's
we don't
right.
strike down an unarmed.
Which is
thing.
why.
And then she
we're
says,
gonna
yes,
talk
yes, I
about
do,
what we
Yeah.
which is where my predictions are going to go.
Yeah,
But
for
she's
sure.
obviously seen things
Yeah.
from what we saw in episode 3 that we didn't see on screen. What happened?
Yes.
What actually happened to her?
Yep.
Or to her people. But we'll get into that. Anyway, the
Martial
combat
arts.
style, martial arts. I really like it. it just gives off that vibe of the Jedi being more of kind of what they're supposed to be, of like a police force almost throughout the galaxy, of
Mhm.
like getting this call
Protection and
and
defense.
here, let's go, calm this situation
Mhm.
and kind of fix this area and this solution, and we're not here to just strike you down.
Yeah.
We're not the military that we see come
We don't go fight
to
wars.
Yeah, we don't go fight in wars, exactly.
The thing about the
Mhm.
martial arts thing you mentioned too, and the Jedi pulling their weapon to kill, quote from Mae. I've seen some people who, which is fine if you didn't like the episode or the show or whatever, but I've seen some people pull that quote as one of the examples, along with fire in space. But we can talk about that in a second here. Some people didn't like that there was fire in space.
I saw Alex explain, or
Yeah.
Star Wars explain Alex Damon's video.
Well, I screenshotted. Someone had a
That's
good
good.
tweet that said, "You do know that George Lucas had this exact quote." I didn't even mean to go on this right now, but George Lucas quoted saying this.
George Lucas quoted, "This is good. You got to read this."
Yeah, have you seen the quote I'm talking about?
Yeah, for anybody that has an
Yeah.
issue with it, which is
fine.
that's fine. You
You
can
know
have
what
an
George
issue- you can have an
Lucas-
issue with it.
I'm laughing out loud because you do realize it's filled with sound too.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Oh
like-
yeah,
I love that we suspend disbelief.
There's no
Like this.
fire in space. Well,
Yeah.
you're comfortable with blasters and laser sounds in space.
comfortable
There's no
with-
sound in space.
There's not
There's
Wookiees.
no sound in space.
Yeah, there's not. There's not.
Remember Alien?
Exactly.
No one can hear you scream. There's
That's
no
the whole thing.
sound. What are you
So I
complaining
love
about?
that. That's all of a sudden the thing that's like, well, now that takes me out of it. Now I feel
Yeah.
like I'm watching a barbecue out
I
back.
don't know if I heard
This is what George Lucas said.
George Lucas for all the George
Luke's-
Lucas lovers.
Yeah.
Lucas-
R2 got shot up and caught on fire
Oh,
in
yeah.
episode 4.
Yeah,
Lucas said here. Lucas said.
every ship battle that's ever happened in the prequels.
Yeah.
In the
Lucas
originals,
said there
it's
is
all about
sound in
explosion.
space when I want there to be.
Yeah.
This is his exact quote.
Of course.
What is that? There's sound in space when I want there to be. Because he was sound. There's fire in
It's-
space
Yeah,
when
he
I
said
want
there's
there to be.
fire in
There's
space.
fire in space when I want there to be.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, this is not
And 'cause
2001.
people were asking about him doing it in the prequels of like, oh, there's no sir on the Emperor's ship. There's this
It
explosion.
happens on
or
Padme's
this. They're
ship
like,
too.
yeah,
all the little
it
explosions. It happens all the
yeah,
time.
I mean,
The Death Star
Or-
blew up.
Death Star.
are you
yeah.
are you okay, R2? R2's putting out a fire while they're
Literally
flying
with
in
extinct-
Revenge of the Sith. Like, and he's putting up, and he's doing all that stuff. Like, but all of a sudden, when it's done on a Disney Plus show, then people are like, these people don't. George Lucas would never. George Lucas is the one who did it. That's
And
why they're
quoted
doing
it.
it. Like, and then George Lucas was
Well,
asked about it and said,
I always thought
don't
that
care.
about like superhero movies. That's so stupid. He would never be able to stop that rock. I said, Superman is flying. How are you good with that?
He's got
That's just
laser
But that's
vision.
the part you choose to
What-
get
that's-
upset
yeah.
about?
Yeah.
We're fine with there
They're
being
standing on the side of a spaceship flying through space. There's no fire in space. You know they're standing on a ship, right?
You
They
know,
got
they're
magnets
standing-
on their feet. Yeah, they're standing on a
They're standing.
spaceship in
while
space.
flying with the Force.
They just float out there. But the
just-
gravity thing, no problem. But there's no gravity. Yeah, that's true. There's no sound. It should have been quiet too.
It is just.
I thought that's the silliest thing I heard. Okay, yeah.
That's silly.
yeah,
Is that
in my
It's
world.
ridiculous.
Actually,
I kind
sorry,
of like it.
Sorry, the full
I think
quote.
it's hilarious.
It just
The-
diffuses
the
the,
full
whole
quote was
argument.
actually because someone said, "Hey, why does without oxygen?
Yeah.
because no oxygen in space. How is the fire burning?" And George, this is the exact quote because I found
There's
the
fire.
original one. In my world, there's air in outer space when I want it.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's like, yeah,
because
quit
it's
looking into it. Like,
entertaining. It's
yeah,
fun.
that's
it. Yeah.
It's supposed
George
to be
is,
fun.
this is what George's funny relationship with his own thing. Is that
Yeah.
he's like, yes, it's this. Yes, it's Steve. There's morality tales. Also, quit nitpicking because I didn't think
It's
about it that
supposed to be a
much. Yeah,
fun
like,
kids
I
movie.
don't know.
It's not supposed to matter.
Faster, more intense. Mark
Not
Hamill
supposed
more
said.
to matter.
intense.
It helps
Like, I
the
wasn't
story.
trying to.
Sometimes the apes talk.
Like, yes, exactly.
And it's just that.
This is it.
Sometimes the apes
That's it.
talk.
I don't know. Like, so it's just funny that some people have a big problem with that. But the
Yeah.
Some
but the
planets
martial
are-
arts thing.
right.
This is where I was going with the martial arts.
arts. We're back.
I think that this is a very intentional thing by, again, to this point. And again, we're 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
But I've seen some interviews from Leslie Headland, and I've mentioned before that I like a lot of what she says as far as first of all, she's a Star Wars nerd. Like she loves, not that you have to, because I think Tony Gilroy is not based
Right.
on, so he's just a good filmmaker.
Yeah.
And he knows how to do it, but
Sure.
she's like someone who grew up on it and stuff too.
Yeah.
And I like though that she seems to really dissect a lot of the things of where the Jedi are going. And one thing that I think is important is there's people who are either in my opinion, misinterpreting or seeing something that's done here and go, that's not consistent with later. And you're like, yeah, because this came first. Like if you remember in the story, the Jedi are behaving in a way now that is not necessarily the same as when Obi-Wan behaves later. And it's because there's a track of where things are going. This is the end of the High Republic. There is a vast amount of Jedi. There is not as much Jedi in fear, so they are not quick. What's that sound? Lightsaber. What's that sound? Lightsaber. It is, we are monks. We are pacifists. We only pull the saber when we need to, which is why it's important when Mae says, you pull the saber, that Carrie-Anne Moss's character, you can just tell initially, like, she's like, I disagree with that, or like, that's not our, but she's like, that's what I've seen, so that's I'm throwing that out there.
Right.
And I saw people say like, oh, that's a poor written line because Jedi in the prequels pull the lightsaber all the time. Like, look at Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, there's smoke coming in, they turn it on.
Of course,
I'm like, yeah, because they're under attack against the Trade Federation.
Well, she's also a villain who doesn't understand what the Jedi even are about.
Exactly. And then the Jedi are different as things have gone because the
view.
Jedi get infiltrated with fear. And when you
Yeah.
act out of fear, like, that's why I love the
quick to
decision
draw
to
your saber.
Soul looks like he's going to draw his saber.
And hands it
And
to her.
he's
which
like,
I thought was
he's
a
like,
huge
I got it.
mistake.
Like
But
a
then-
soul,
Yeah,
no.
I still thought that's dangerous. Don't give
Just
it.
even
But
by accident.
He knew.
Oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
like to my head canon there is that he knew based on he could feel that she was not the one who was dangerous.
That's right.
And he was like,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
a sign to you to show you I am not here to hurt you. I
Yeah.
am not.
Mhm.
I trust you with something. Is
You can
like,
look at
look,
this.
do you want
Yeah.
this can be? But I like that
Yeah.
there's a back and forth between the way some of the Jedi behave.
Mhm.
Yord feels like very much one of those like, well, actually, by the rule, this is what we should have
Yord's
done.
a paladin.
He is.
Because,
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
D&D.
yeah.
Yord's
Yeah,
like
he
a
is.
paladin.
He is.
He is. This is what like Yord Soul is a Jedi
Yeah.
who he is a Qui-Gon Jedi of like, I am doing stuff in the nature of what I think the Jedi stands for, and that is above all else, even if that means that it technically breaks a couple of the rules. Where Yord is like, I am trying to be a Jedi.
That's
Where
right.
It's like, and that means
Yeah, I'm
and,
trying
like,
to follow the
Yord,
rules.
Like,
exactly.
they do stuff intentionally with Yord, where like they come to him and he's like sitting on Osha's bed, but like perfectly chest out.
Exactly.
His robes are out, and he's like presenting himself.
He
Soul
is
gets
in.
down like Qui-Gon would, and he's talking to him as if Qui-Gon talks to
Yeah.
Anakin. and
Soul's
Yeah.
one of the most Qui-Gon Jedi we've seen in a
Yeah.
while.
And so I like that there's
I
this
love it.
already. Not all the Jedi are the same, and also you can see Yord. And again, nothing against Yord. We don't know where his storyline's going, but you see that Yord is closer to what I think they start going down this path of like, we are this by the rules. We in the cutoff detachment or cutoff
That's-
attachments. That thing.
You raise a great point. I thought
Leads us-
that
yeah.
one. I thought when Vanessa Rose spoke the first time,
Yeah.
that felt very down the line by the book.
Yeah.
When Jackie asks Soul, "Why do you keep a hollow of your?"
Yes.
Of your old
Of your-
Padawan, or
yeah.
And
Exactly.
he covers it by saying, "If we don't learn from the past,"
we'll
but really he
repeat
keeps
yeah.
it because he loves her.
Just, yeah.
He
has
cares
the
about it.
attachment there.
Yeah.
And I think Jackie kind of read into that.
Yeah.
She's more of a wisecracking, streetwise.
I like
seems
Jackie.
like. And Soul is very compassionate, but understands that that's not acceptable to everybody.
Yes.
So I love
Yeah.
seeing these characters and how
Jackie
they
feels in the
interact.
middle. Like I like
Yeah.
Jackie. Jackie feels like
She.
well,
Yeah.
she questions him like, well, we're like
Why are you-
basically like protocol says you should have gotten rid of that, but she's not like oh so and so's doing
Yeah.
this in the front of the class.
Exactly.
She's
Where
not
that's
like
a little
wait.
bit
So
more-
she's not like
Still
So get rid
understands
of
her
it.
place.
yeah, she's
right.
kind
So
of like
why
like she's like learning from her master because of that. She's
That's
like
right.
oh interesting, like that's not what I was told. Like I want she more of thinks like I wonder why he's doing that and learns
Mhm.
from.
yeah.
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 So I just love the dynamics between
Soul,
all
he's
the
got a
different
pure
characters there.
Is there
This
anything
guy.
you guys had trouble with in episode 1? In the first episode? Lost, found, going back through.
Trying to
Ship
rethink of
crashes,
what
goes
happened
through the snow.
as far
I
as-
love the
everything.
spooky nature of seeing
Oh,
the
I
black
really liked
eyes.
that.
Man, it was like kind of scary and
Yeah, that was very
Yeah.
much
kind of
horror
the chase
elements all of a
there,
sudden.
and then we get the reveal at the end with the
Yeah.
yeah.
red saber. and
we haven't even talked about
the master
was it
and
Chimere? Because I have some speculation
Yeah.
about Chimere.
Yeah.
So one, I think his character is very interesting. We'll get to what our predictions are maybe regarding if we think that the person with the red blade is someone we've met already.
yes,
And there are a couple. I have if we're doing our own murder mystery, I have a couple of suspects right now.
This guy's
Ooh,
going knives out on
I'm
us.
Anxious to
Couple
hear
of
it.
suspects.
It all comes back to Ryan Johnson.
The game is afoot.
Game's
No,
afoot.
which, by the way, they started today or yesterday filming Knives Out 3.
They
So
did?
They posted a picture of Daniel Craig on
Wow.
the set.
All right.
But the predictions, not necessarily a prediction, but
Yeah.
Chimere,
Right.
I think is a very interesting character that I am wondering if there's more to Chimere than meets the eye. And reasoning. He obviously has a relationship with Mae.
Mhm.
He also has a connection that he is speaking to their master.
Yep.
Because he is even said like, oh, he said this. You wants to do without a
Remind
without a
everybody
weapon.
Who is he to have?
Remind
this?
everybody who this
Yes.
is.
So this is
The guy in the shop.
Jason. Is it Jason from The Good Place?
Jason from The Good Place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think how else to describe him this, other than he's the guy who gives her the poison.
He's the
shop
only
guy.
one
The
shop
connected.
guy.
Yeah.
The shop
Yeah.
guy,
The
who
shop
gives
guy
her
with
the
Mae.
poison.
He's hiding a lot.
So he's hiding.
He's
a
closer
lot.
than yeah.
Because he said, "Oh, he's like I'm just a dealer, basically."
Yeah, so let's look at a couple of plot points that happen with him that, as I've watched the episode also a couple times,
Mm-hmm.
he really starts to jump out at me as someone that I would be, again, if I'm the Jedi and I need to interrogate or I need to question someone about what's happening, he's one of the first people I go to.
We're on episode 2.
Yes,
kinda
this is a
now,
little
yeah.
episode
He-
2 now.
Mhm.
He showed up. They asked him how long he'd been here, and they said he showed up like a week ago.
He showed up just recently. He has
He hadn't been there a long
Yeah.
time.
So
has-
he was placed there.
yeah,
He was placed there.
the fact
Yeah.
that he gives her, she is stumped. How do you fight someone who can't do? How do you do this? And he's supposed to be some lowly shop guy who's just like, oh, I'm a connector. I get people things. I'm able to do stuff. Like, he's clearly resourceful. Whether he's some super sinister guy or not, we'll find out. He's clearly super resourceful. But the fact that he, with very little hesitation, gives her the exact answer of how to defeat a Jedi who's basically invincible, who's sitting there.
Mhm.
She's like, I'm trying to get him. I can't get to him. And he's like, oh,
Absolution.
maybe give him the absolution. Give him the one thing he's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's the one who gives her the thing.
Yeah.
Poison.
He gives her the poison.
He makes
It's
it.
exactly what Torben. There was exactly the weakness or the thing that Torben was actually waiting for.
That's right.
And it immediately gets through to him. He opens his eyes. He talks to her and says, I've been waiting for you. And he takes it. And the fact that he provided it was like, okay, he not only had good intuition or understanding of this, he also knew, cool, here's your device. Here's how you do it. But then there's two moments that actually happened in the episode that I was kind of like, whoa, that was,
Wait a second.
that took
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
back. One is when Osha pretends to be Mae. And
This
he's
is what I was thinking of.
he's talking and he's doing the
Yeah.
whole this and he's playing and then he gets super confident and close to her and I
His
remember
tone
the exact
changed.
quote.
His tone
But all of a
changed.
sudden he's in this like feeling invincible, like
Sinister.
"Amazing, you look just like her." Like
exactly
he
like
he
her.
sounds
You look
like
exactly like
And he knows it's not her.
he knows it's not her, and he feels like he feels like he's not threatened at all by
No.
whoever she is, and he's like doing it in such a way that like it felt like
He's like, you look
immediately you're like, whoa, this guy's really dangerous all of a sudden. And then the other moment is when Mae is actually on the loose and the Jedi are looking for her. And she's running and she's hiding throughout the town. She comes around the corner and it's him.
He's there. Yeah.
She then tries for like 2 seconds, like tries to hit him and he dodges and then even
Can't.
grabs her.
Yes.
And stops like, whoa, it's me. It was like, what were those instincts?
How did he do that?
That was some impressive. You're fighting someone who's been defeating people, and even in martial arts,
In that.
was going hand to hand against Carrie-Ann Moss's
Right.
Yeah, against Jedi.
masters and like this stuff. And he's not
He's
some
so-
shop
punched.
guy.
I mean, it looked like Floyd Mayweather trying to get punched, and he was just like, nope, no matter what you're doing, you're missing. And then
Yeah.
he just catches her, and she's like, and then like slows down. He's like, it's just me.
Calm down.
But I was
I
like,
know.
whoa, who is this? Who is this guy? So
Yeah.
there's some potential that he could.
And he also knew he knew the location of Kelnaka, right?
Kanaka, yeah, he knew that
Yeah.
too. Yeah,
So
he's up there.
He's got something.
He's someone. We can talk about some other people.
Yeah.
I went on for a while, but anything else about episodes 1 and 2?
remind me something here, because I'm remembering this wrong. Maybe. Mae has the mark on her head when she's a child.
Yep.
Osha does not.
Mm-hmm.
When they're grown, Osha has the mark on her head, right?
I don't.
I
know
could have
Look
I
up
sworn.
don't know.
she
I need to go
does.
back and
Put
look
it in
at
there.
it.
I could have sworn when she went into the place that she had. I know her hair's covering it most of the time. I
Let me
could have
see.
sworn that she had that thing on her head. I looked it up.
Need to,
I looked it
I'll
up.
have
But
to go. Yeah, I'll have to go look at
you
it.
guys
to
can
see
put
it.
it in there if you can show
Throw
me
it
a
in the
picture
chat.
because her hair is covering it up most of the
yeah, I
time.
need
Yeah.
to see it. I
But
just
it's
can't
more
remember.
likely that I just overlooked it. But anyway, I thought the same thing about that scene.
Yeah.
So you look just like her. Like
yeah.
You look exactly. Yeah.
There was
Wow.
there was some confidence
It
behind
was.
it.
It was almost sinister.
Mhm.
Like
and he knew she wasn't who she was. Like he knew,
he knew he had the instinct.
but he also knew that the twins alive. Like he had information. He wasn't
Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah.
because
He wasn't surprised that there's another person that looks just like me.
yeah.
No, he wasn't.
And that's information that how did he have it?
Because
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. Take us in the real world. If all of a sudden I thought I was talking to Uncle
Yeah.
or to someone that's not related to me, but
I
someone
would
that
not
I
have
had a
been
relationship,
comfortable. I was like, wait a minute.
I wouldn't in a matter of just because you're acting different. Go, wait, are you a twin? Like,
what is going on?
I would be like, what happened to you? Like,
Yeah.
like he
Yeah.
immediately
What's
was
wrong
like,
with you?
Nor would I be. Imagine me talking to someone who I know just a little bit.
You look just
And-
like
and
her.
I
Like
go,
who?
Amazing, you look just like him. I'd be
Exactly.
like, get away! What are you talking
You
about?
look just like
It's
him.
like, what are you talking
Like
about?
who?
Yeah.
I know.
There was some absolute
Yeah.
some attitude there that was
Mhm.
that had some red.
And we had
flags
that
going on.
fight scene there with Soul and Mae that I thought was
Oh,
was
great.
spectacular.
It was really
It's almost
good.
like he's on a different
Oh.
level than Andara. Almost like, wow.
Yeah.
Tied
Yeah.
back to Indara. I love you talking about the
Taking
way the
the
show
knives
starts.
from her.
The show again, the great. This is a. It's such a. It ties into the Kenobi show. The Inquisitors say the Jedi, code is like an itch; they cannot help it. It's their biggest in the
Yeah.
dark side.
In the eyes of the Sith,
their
it's
biggest
their biggest
weakness
Is
that
their
put an
compassion.
innocent at risk, and they will save them and expose themselves.
Yeah.
And Indara
May
was
has already been
great.
taught this.
She can't beat her. It's a stalemate, or not even a stalemate, because obviously Indara's not trying to kill her. But
Right,
she's
she's just pushing
blocking
her.
off,
She
and then she
sees-
looks,
an innocent person.
boom,
Until
and that's it. And then she knows she will save the innocent person. And the look that Carrie Ann Moss gives, she knows she's about to die. She actually looks and goes like you. You're
can't
gonna
stop
do it.
both
And this
of
is
you.
it. Like she, because they both look. She looks there and she looks and thinks like,
No.
"Don't do it." Like, and and then boom, that was it.
Yeah.
She knew what was going to happen, and so I loved. One other thing about that, I screenshot. This was a thing that Leslie Headland said about that opening. I saw this today. She said, Leslie Headland said the cold opening in Acolyte episode 1 was inspired by Breaking Bad. She said, Breaking Bad, that is one of the best cold opens ever, where we find Walter White out in the, in the desert and everything. She said, when I sit down to write anything, whenever I sit down to write anything, I'm like, well, I won't be able to top that. But in my show, what's the Star Wars version of that? The best I could come up with was immediately killing off Carrie Ann Moss and being like, whoa, where's the show going?
What are we doing here?
Wow.
So I love it. And then her final quote of that was, you just have to go hard. You have to say, all right, looks like the Jedi are going to take some L's. That's what she said. That's what she said when she
Wow.
was sitting there writing
Wow.
it, which, again, I like. First of all, anyone brings up Breaking Bad, that's good. But I like that.
That
the show
reminded me-
immediately captured me because
That
of that.
reminded me of Breaking Bad, where you would see these scenarios like, what is happening here?
Or how did we get
How
here?
did they?
Yes.
What is this? And then, bow, and you're like, now you go back to the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go back to the beginning
And you
of the
get
episode.
there, like, how did he get with his
How did he get
underwear and a gun standing in the middle of the highway?
Yes.
And he's
What is going
and then
on?
it cuts and he's just a normal
Just-
professor. And
And
then
he's like, wait. And then you get there, like, I see it.
yeah.
Anyway,
It's like
so
for the
I
whole
appreciate that.
season, what is this floating teddy bear in the pool? And you find out it's from a plane.
Exactly. You
crash.
got to wait
So you're
5
like,
episodes to see what this
Yeah, I
is.
know. Yeah, it's
Why
crazy.
is there
Breaking
money
Bad
floating?
did that. Breaking Bad did it the best.
It's
But I
amazing.
agree. I think that
Any-
start definitely had me the same. I was like, one, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
But I was also like, all right, here we go.
I know
This
it.
is it.
It's
We're
great.
right in the action. Who's next?
Can we talk about any of the hate from episode 2? Do you guys have any thoughts on the hatred that's been raining down? Where you get Get the
From
critics.
episode 2, not from 3 yet.
Well,
They're saying?
2, yeah, but the
yeah.
critics 90
Oh.
some, and the
Yes.
audience 20
I
some.
texted Nate.
What
Do you
is
remember
going
when I
on?
texted
It's just
you?
so ridiculous.
texted
The
Nate
critic
so
score is like
frustrated.
what 80, 90 something.
It
and
was
the,
94
It
or
was
something.
at the time.
it was,
I
like, way up. It's
screenshotted
probably
it. I think the
down
day
now.
I sent Nate a text about this because I was just I knew that we
94.
weren't going to be able to podcast last
well,
week.
the season as a
'Cause
whole,
I was
right?
traveling.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
some people saw there's critics and stuff. There are people who
Saw it
got
ahead,
screeners. They
4
got
or
to see the
5.
first 4 episodes. I think
Yeah.
at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I messaged Nate and said, like, dude, like I was just super frustrated because I was like, one, I am all for, and hopefully anyone watching this knows kind of this is how all 3 of us feel is. I am all for. You don't have to love everything that I love. You don't have to even enjoy it. You don't have to like it. You can have valid criticisms or
Right.
even invalid criticisms.
Yeah.
That's fine. You can enjoy the show or hate it all you want. What I don't like is the active rooting for shows to fail from people who are so-called Star Wars fans too. Like
Right.
saying you dislike something doesn't mean you're not a Star Wars fan. But when before a show comes out and you saying, "Oh boy, I just can't wait to see this thing just flop and burn," is like
That's right.
So
That's
when we
what
talk
are
about
you a
Rotten
fan?
Tomatoes, Rotten Tomatoes
I know.
when you're rooting
used
for
to
something
be-
to fail.
Yeah.
really, I think until The Last Jedi, I had never seen a Rotten Tomatoes score where it
That-
used to always be the critics are like somewhere in here,
Yeah.
and the fans like pick
fans usually
pick
like
a
it
movie.
more.
You could pick a doesn't matter what it is, but
Back
pick
to the
a,
Future.
Back to the Future. Back to the Future is probably pretty high, but it's like the critic score 90%, audience is like 98. Like the audience is always a little higher.
Yeah.
For most things, even if it's a mediocre thing, it's like,
Yeah.
this Expendables movie, maybe it's a 55%, but the audience was like 85.
Yeah,
because the
right.
people who went to go see it knew what they were getting in for,
Yeah.
and they enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Yeah, Star
when
Wars.
you see
just,
something that says 94% or 91% critic, fan 25%, you're like, okay,
Something's wrong.
there's something that's
there's-
going on
yeah,
here.
yeah. They're,
And it's not surprising. Like, it's clearly intentional review bombing. And that's not saying that if you dislike it, but this was happening before the first episode dropped. I sent Nate a text and said, I haven't even seen the show yet, but I hate that all of a sudden, before it's even released, we get the critic score because the critics have seen it early.
Right.
But there's a fan score of 28% already of people that are rating the show they haven't seen yet. And
yeah, not
just-
even out yet.
just saying stuff that also is just there are discussions to be had about certain shows and things in certain shows, but there are people who are making these headlines of what this show is or what that show is not or whatever that
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel sometimes like we're watching a different show. It doesn't mean I like all the plot points or
Yeah.
every single thing that happens or decisions. Like there's stuff that I'm like, oh, I mean, we've talked enough about how Mando season 3, there's stuff in there I really liked, and also how it was my least favorite season of Mando.
Yeah.
But if I was to categorize Mando season 3 was about this or this, and it was just not at all what the show is about, I would be like, oh, that's interesting that you have that take. And I just feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of those going around. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the hate of a show, it's tough because I feel like
What
there are
did-
people that are just currently, until Kathleen Kennedy is removed, which I don't call for, but there are people who are just, no matter what happens, until something changes, I'm just going to
Yeah.
outwardly hate this.
And then when
every
it
single thing comes
changes,
out.
they're gonna hate it.
And then they're still going to
still.
say, and they're still going to say, well, George never would have. Well, it's easy for you to say now that George is 87 because he's not coming back to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like, so you can always just say, George would have done this, except that George did all of these things and
Yeah.
then some.
What were you gonna say?
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. There's
It's a
lot of
mixture of things. There's sadness in there. You know, you get older and you start thinking, hey, when back in my day,
Yeah.
I don't like doing that, but back in my day,
But
we didn't
But do it.
we didn't have this.
Yeah.
It wasn't this ganging up on because you couldn't go on Twitter and share your opinion like anybody cared what you actually thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Nobody cared what I thought. Nobody cares what I think now. I know that. And they just team up and sabotage things that I think
Yeah.
there's
Because
good, there's
what's
good
funny
in
is
there.
if you go on Twitter, I mean, I'm on Twitter, part of the Star
X
or
Wigs.
X Wings.
Wigs.
Um, but on Twitter, on X,
Yeah.
there's a ton of Star Wars. I would say I'm in on the Star Wars community. There's a bunch of Star Wars, people I follow on there. I checked it that day.
Mhm.
I mean, across the board, everybody's loving it.
Yeah.
Everybody's
That's
loving it.
good. Glad to hear that.
And I haven't yet to go to Star Wars Celebration. I want to do that at some point. It's a bucket list item. But every time I see these people that I follow that I've even gotten to know through
Mhm.
social media talk about their experience at Star Wars Celebration, they always come back with the same thing. They say, it's such a great reminder of the actual Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
What's actually going on versus this loud minority of people that are the ones going and bad-mouthing everything.
Yeah.
Those that are really involved, that really love Star Wars for what it is, that are going to these things, it's just across the board. Everybody just enjoys it.
Yeah. Including those who have popular podcasts in the Star Wars realm who clearly have an agenda to gain clicks by being over the top.
Over the top,
Over the top,
negative,
for sure.
And
clickbait. Yeah.
they realize, wait a second, I can gain a lot more following if I hate than if
Yeah.
I people
turn to
will
the dark
watch.
side.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
No,
but
it
that's a
is.
shame.
It's sad to see that because it's stuff that even, I mean, just a few years ago wasn't nearly what it is now.
No.
Where it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
never for people
So-
trying to tell other people they shouldn't like something.
Yeah.
That's what I always
Yeah.
think is annoying. It's fine.
Right.
Be as vocal as you want to say you disliked it.
Yeah.
But to present it as fact of like this is the obvious conclusion.
They should
Anyone
not
who
do
likes
that.
this is some Disney shill. I wish we were Disney shills. If we got paid by Disney, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We don't get nothing. Our
No.
podcast isn't close to that yet.
No.
But
I
but
wish
it's
we
funny that certain people will be like, yeah, well, clearly unless you were paid off by Disney or probably the only people who like this, you're like, or like
It's
you know,
just
like,
good.
Well,
It's
please,
just
there's
we
two
enjoy
things for
this.
us. We're generally glass half full with anything.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
We choose to see
some
the
people try to
things that
take
we
the extreme.
like.
I mean, you see this. Some people try to take, and we can move on from this. But some people try
Yeah.
to take the extreme of like, if you like it or you enjoy it, you're backing. It's almost like they're saying you support everything about it.
Yeah.
Every scene, every moment, every word, every dialogue.
Of
You're
course
all in.
not.
It's like, no, I can not. There's some things in The Last Jedi I really don't like.
Right.
It's also still one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of things in there that I get are valid criticisms that
Yeah.
I myself am like, I don't like it. I don't
Mhm.
like that decision. But that doesn't pull me out of the show or the movie to be like, oh yeah, this is terrible.
Right.
No, I still like everything. I mean, that's what you do with every show, every movie.
I love School of Rock. I don't want Jack Black in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I'd like to say
No,
that
I agree. Though.
I'd
Again,
also
though,
love to say
It doesn't
on
ruin it.
principle,
I just like,
It takes you. That
I
takes me
also
out of it
takes
a
you
little
out.
bit.
I also
Takes you
love
out.
School of Rock, and I talk about just because you like something doesn't mean you support every thing about it. I
No.
want to say on the record that teachers should be
He's going
qualified.
somewhere.
they should
I
be
don't think you should go
vetted.
straight from getting
And
getting
can we-
excommunicated from your drunken rock band to
And
go
it's-
be around 30 children
And-
without people knowing about it. I think that there are some
Exactly.
legal issues there.
There
I'll
are.
just say
And
that. I
Maybe
think
just
that there
ask
are.
for an ID.
But I will
Contrary
say,
to-
if
to
you
believe-
teach them a good song,
That's right.
you'll be tenured for at least a few years. at
And
school.
contrary to
Well,
what
they were
most
great
believe-
at Battle of the Bands.
That ending would never happen that way.
They're
No.
all staying.
No.
Great, you guys
Actually,
are good singers.
Yeah,
My
actually-
kid,
actually sing another
you're
one.
not a teacher.
You,
Yeah.
you,
Also,
you have
You're a
lied
drunken
to all
loser.
of us.
contrary to what most believe, it's Schneeblay.
Yeah,
Schneeblay.
It's
so
some
good.
Dewey something.
I'll tell you what I haven't liked about the show because
Yeah.
my daughter asked me, "What do you think?" Love the show. I almost brought tears in the second episode.
Mm.
Or was it the first episode? When she's falling off I think it was the first episode.
Yeah.
She's falling off
Oh,
and he
yes.
pulls her
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And the look on his face is such compassion.
Yes.
And when she says, Mae's
You-
alive, he looks at her and says, I
Believe
believe
you.
I believe
Right
you.
That's
after-
also
Right
that-
after
I
earlier in the
loved it.
episode telling the council,
Mhm.
telling them, saying, oh, no, Mae's dead. I saw her
Nice
die.
thing. Yeah.
But then when she says it and he sees it and
I
feels,
believe you.
I believe
senses
you.
it,
Yes.
says, I believe you.
Again, I've
He was
seen
also
people, I
answering
think-
two things. I didn't kill,
Yes.
I didn't
believe
kill
you.
and
Yeah.
and then Mae's alive. He's
I
answering.
believe you.
He's answering.
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
That one, and then in the last episode, I want to be a Jedi, Mama.
Yes. That was such
I know.
Just that interaction was fantastic with Mama,
That
and
was
And
so
I was
good.
not-
realizing
That
you got to
child.
let your daughter go and being willing that walking that line between.
And
you
I was
don't
not
want her
expecting
to, you
her
do
response.
want her to. No, it was very beautiful.
I wasn't expecting her to actually give good advice and saying, you don't make this decision based on fear.
That's right. It was
Yeah.
beautiful.
If you want to do that, you got to make that
I think
decision.
the acting
do
has
it.
been
It's-
fantastic.
yeah.
Yes. The
I-
acting is
So
the
good.
thing that I haven't liked, and which is weird because I read all these negative reviews, And a lot of them said, "Well, I'm going to give it points for the set design." That's the thing I haven't loved.
I actually agree. I think
I
the
do
falling
too.
specifically
It feels small.
specifically
I do too.
specifically the scene of in the last episode.
Yeah.
When stuff was crumbling and they were on the pillars there.
Yep.
There was a moment where one of the angles took a shot and I thought, "Oh, that looks like a very small set. Like that was just boom boom, that's
Yes.
it." It felt very like
I'll tell you exactly what it
screens
feels
in
like.
the back, green
Yes.
screen background, this, and that
And-
was it. And I remember thinking, "Oh, I didn't.
Yes.
Wasn't
Yes,
a fan
yes,
I'll
of
tell
that."
you exactly what it reminded me of too, because it felt. I'm so glad you brought that up because that is one of the things that, and it hasn't been like, oh, because of that I hate it, but it was like, oh,
It's
and I know because it's been reported what the production of the show was, which was very high.
yeah. Huge.
The budget, I mean, of the show.
Yeah.
Which I
actually
think the
did
space stuff I felt the opposite about.
Yeah.
But
the
I
Stuff in
did
space, I
think-
thought, "Oh, this looks good."
Looks
But as far
fantastic.
as the set design stuff, I thought a number of things have felt very soundstagey. Like you can tell. I feel like which is interesting because obviously they still use CGI, but they're not using the volume for this. They've actually said they didn't use any volume for
and
the
I
show.
appreciate the live
Yeah,
feel.
but it is
Yeah.
interesting because I think they did say they went and filmed this in Europe and kind of similar to what Andor's done. But I think Andor's look feels very different.
Andor's also
look
had a lot
feels
of
bigger. I don't feel like I feel like
Andor-
I'm in an actual city.
Yeah.
And
versus
Andor
seeing
had
this.
they built them, but Andor also, I mean, they built.
But I'm
literally
saying that
built the
jumps
city.
off on screen versus I think this
Yeah.
feels like a lot of times I feel like I'm in a
It was
closed
enclosed.
perspective that if I pan to the right, I would see a boom mic guy or something.
And,
there.
and
It was
here's the
that.
thing, and here's part of the reason why maybe it feels like that because in Andor, a lot of it is practical. When they're on
There's also a lot of nature stuff.
when they're
in
in the,
Andor,
I was
too.
gonna say they're outside. So when they're on the side of a cliffs and they
Oh,
see
yeah.
a TIE fighter fly over, they're actually on the side of this
Yeah.
mountain, whatever.
Right.
In this,
And they built those are actual TIE fighters that they
they were actually flying over.
Fly. They're
They
real.
did. They
Real.
called but in this, I think I'll just use the last episode as an example. When even the scene where they're all doing their chant and
Yeah.
stuff, and they're having the girls walk out. Even
Yep.
that, the stairs of there, it felt like to the left was a cliff,
Mhm.
and it was like open, but like. To make it look bigger, it almost could have been more open in some ways.
They were
like it feels
close-
like
they
if
were
it-
all
if you
close
turned over,
together.
it could have been more.
And it was a tighter
It
shot.
felt tighter. It felt like when the
It
four.
reminded me of
It felt like when the
Obi-Wan-
four Jedi walked around the corner. It was like they walked in and they're just like already in the middle of everybody.
Yeah.
It did feel smaller.
It
Right.
reminded
Yeah.
me a little of a couple of the Kenobi series
Yeah.
shots of Kenobi going around like the salt mines, and then Vader shows up the first time. Where
Right.
you can just tell it feels like he stepped out this side, then he stepped out this
Yeah,
side,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then also when Vader shows up with the stormtroopers, but there's like 8 of them. Where if this is Kenobi, you'd feel like there'd be 50. We're sending 50 stormtroopers to go
Right.
get Kenobi, but it felt like because they were on the volume, they had only a couple.
Yeah.
With Reva, that was when Reva shows
Reva.
up actually.
Yeah.
I having said that, no, I say all that, but I remember, and this is where I try to this is where I try to balance, because people will say that and say, it's bad. But then they forget that when you go back and you look at a lot of the scenes on the Death Star in episode 4, there's a lot of scenes where they're just crammed together. They make a small
yeah.
turn, they make a small turn. They're not showing a lot of set.
Yeah.
It's very tight and small. Episode 5's the same way. All of the old ones are that way.
Also, Force Awakens,
Force
I will
Aw-
say, even though
So it's not
I really
uncommon.
like what JJ did as far as
Yeah.
the way it looks a
Yeah.
lot, there's a very obvious version of that, which is the introduction of Poe Dameron. When it's pitch black, they're clear. I mean, I've heard some other people point this out, so this isn't an original idea. But I went back and watched it, and they're clearly you don't see that they're on a soundstage, but they're clearly on a soundstage when they do it's a cool scene, but when he does the whole when he's holding when Kylo is introduced, and he does that.
Oh yeah, and he's holding.
There's nothing in the backdrop. It's just pure black.
Yeah.
And there's one X-wing, and he's like walking up over a hill, and they're talking, but it's like we do this
You
and
can
we
see
pan a
you can
little
see
bit,
it,
and it just
yeah.
you can tell we're up on this mound,
Right.
and and again there's a backdrop that you're not seeing anything. It just feels very like there's something with the contrast of the colors too that I can tell we're not in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's
Yeah.
other scenes, obviously, in
Yeah.
some of the other things where it
But I
looks
don't
huge.
I like the show.
Yeah.
I mean,
if,
yeah.
If
it's
it was
something I
if it
noticed,
was
but
different, I
wasn't-
wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, I did notice some of those scenes that, like you said, it kind of felt small or compact, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like I did notice it and it crossed my mind while I was watching it, but it also wasn't like, oh wow, that's terrible. I'm out of this.
Yeah.
No, it was just I noticed it and I moved on as I'm watching the episode.
That's right. There's so many good things about it.
Yeah.
Should we get
Um,
to some specifics? Of
Yeah.
episode 3 now?
Before we
Sure.
kind of wrap up, I
Well,
do
maybe
want to
done
get
episode
to
3
some
yet.
We're done.
episode 3, and then kind of where we think things are moving forward. Let's
Yeah.
just episode 3. We'll do some predictions on where we think moving forward. But overall, what were your thoughts? Did you like episode 3? What did you guys think?
I was surprised by it. I could see why people wouldn't necessarily like it because it wasn't action packed.
Mhm.
But I loved the dialogue
It was a
between
little
them.
slower.
I
Like
really,
I mean, timing wise, it kind of.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the full episode to be a flashback,
no.
but as it was playing out, I was like, oh, this is cool. We're gonna get this whole story.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we did that.
The title is great because we can see that the girls have been shaped in a particular way
Mm-hmm.
by whatever forces are at work. Where the
Yeah.
daughter was raised in the coven, but she's drawn to the Jedi, and she's drawn to the witches.
Potentially a dyad
Yeah.
in the Force.
Yep.
Right there. The
I-
two is one.
The
That's
born
right.
is-
two
they've been
is
saying
one.
this
That's
thing,
right.
too. And then
I-
obviously we find out of how they actually were born. We get
Yeah.
to those
We know,
details.
yeah. This is people have been mad about that they've changed. They haven't. Nothing has changed. This is something that happened before, and we know that Plagueis is behind the origins of this.
Yeah.
With having the power to give life was actually what
yeah,
was
to
said.
discover the
Not
secret.
not
yeah.
cheat death. The power
Yes,
to give
yes.
life.
Yeah, two different
To
things.
create life.
To
is
create
the-
life.
Actually.
Right.
Power
So
to create life.
cheating death was the offshoot, but it
Yes,
was really
that's how
create
he-
life.
He got him in because, perhaps we can do this. Plagueis created, he had the power to create life. And he looks at Anakin, and there's always this hint of Anakin had no father.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we know that there was something forced.
There's
There was
there.
something that happened that Anakin,
Yeah.
whether it was the will of the Force, whether it was some plague,
Yep.
there's something that Anakin, but yeah, you were talking about this mirrors
Yeah.
the Anakin birth, the no father,
Yeah.
the Force being tied into it. But I love that it's from this witch's perspective of, this group has been banished. They talk about we haven't performed a ceremony like this since
Mhm.
we were banished. There's only
Exiled,
two children exiled. Only 2 children in their entire group. So it's
And they're
not
they're not supposed to have
And
children.
they've been hiding
it's
them.
not a place for children. Yeah. They were not supposed to have them. They lied to the Jedi about having them. And
Yeah.
they asked, like, there's no children here. And then Soul's like, but I see one right there.
Kill Knocker.
He's like, you ate your lunch. Remember? We're going to have dinner after
Oh,
this.
he's not hungry. He saw
sorry,
one.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, he saw
okay.
one.
never
Okay.
mind.
He saw 2. maybe he is hungry.
But I love
You
that
ate
the witches doing this. We learn that Mae and Osha were created because of what the witches have done. But then they're also like, what if the Jedi find? Do you want the?
Do you
I
want the
carried
power
them.
to
I
go to
created them. Yeah. And do you want them? What happens if they? Do you want them to find out how you created them? Which they're like, we know it was this whether it's like straight up just dark Force use, magic, dark side stuff, or it's just like we know that we're doing something that's forbidden. Like we are doing things that the Jedi would clearly frown upon. And and the Jedi also have specific. There's specific. I like the world building of Carrie-Anne Moss's character talking about it's law that if that we have the right to test them.
You can't-
obviously with your, and she's like respectful, obviously with your with
With
your
your-
blessing or
with your
whatever,
blessing.
with your
And she
blessing,
was
but
like,
like
Of course.
essentially like it is law. The Jedi are so universal at that point as a entity
And
that
they made
it's
it
known that in
they made it a point too to say we don't take children.
we don't take them,
We don't take
but
them.
we're going to test
We're
them.
allowed
and
to
then we
test
give
them,
you a
and then we
choice.
give them a choice if they want to join us or not.
But I love that from there's so much we can get to of the perspectives of if I'm the witches, of course I have a problem with what's going on there. If I'm the Jedi, I've also seen enough to like, of course I don't like what's going on here. This is a group that's not supposed to have
Yeah,
children.
exactly.
They have children, and they're in
And
the
they're
middle of this
exiled. They're not
ascension
good.
ceremony of becoming
I
witches.
I
There's this-
recoiled at that whole scene. It just felt
Yeah, you mean the witchcraft?
no
Scene
the
or the-
Jedi
or the
coming
talking
in. It
scene?
felt so
Yes.
intrusive. Like,
Yeah, when they showed up.
who do you think you are
Yeah.
to just push your thing on us? We're not allowed to have children. who do you Jedi think you are? You arrogant
Also, they said
to just walk in here and just tell us what we're supposed
and
to
the
do.
witches are like, you're not allowed to
It's
have
a
this. We're
horrible
not in,
law.
and the witches are like, we're not in the new. We're not
Yeah,
in.
know,
the
we're
just-
not
Republic.
recognized this with
I
the new
recall
Republic.
that
We're
a
in
little
the
bit.
outer-
with the High Republic.
I
Like
know,
the Jedi walk into my house and say, "You're not supposed to have children." I go, well, "Who do you think you are?
Yes.
Yeah,
Get out! You're not welcome here." I
There's-
don't know. It just
No,
felt.
I
it did.
love
I
that.
think they're
There's so
painting
much
us-
of that. You're not
I
supposed
do. I
to
think-
enjoy the way the Jedi are going.
and I
about
think
it.
this is
Yeah.
intentional, and
Like
it's going to kind of get to where some of my predictions are leading. But I think they're intentionally showing that they're making it clear. Obviously, the witches are exiled. They're witches.
Mhm.
They're practicing dark magic. They're not good, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're not good.
right.
But they're shedding good, like almost like a good side, like good moments.
Mhm.
Like with the mom giving her good advice,
Yeah.
and letting her make a decision.
Yep.
But the other lady saying,
yes.
no,
Mother,
we're gonna go and kill and attack. They're showing that there's
That's right.
conflict among both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in the same light, showing a
Yeah,
little bit of
Mother Coral
coral,
Squirrel.
showing
is
that
much more.
Yep.
I think they're in the same light. They're showing that from the Jedi's perspective too. Of they're good, but they are intrusive. They
Mhm.
are maybe not doing things in the right way, and I think that's gonna get to what we'll find out is happening.
Part of these,
But-
I'm sure that part of these laws were established because of the Sith many years ago.
Totally. These are
Yeah.
to
They
They
prevent
established
stuff
this
from
to
building
prevent
up.
that from
Yeah.
happening again.
We see
But it
people
feels-
it
It almost feels like we're getting like Mae feels justified. Like, you arrogant coming in here and just
Yeah.
destroying everything.
yeah,
I'm gonna take you down. It's I don't know. It's
yeah,
especially with
hard
maybe
to-
what her perspective is or what she thinks happened
that's
Yeah.
right.
at the end of this
Well,
episode.
let's
Yeah.
get into that then.
Yeah.
Well,
Before,
can we talk about how Torben? You and I joked about this because we watched the episode
I
together.
said,
I loved how Torben.
what a fool! How
he was a
quickly,
Padawan, but
how
he had
quickly
no
Torben
resistance.
just had no resistance. It
Nothing.
went
When they-
straight to
Black eyes. falling
Torben's
in.
like, "Hello, my name's Corbin." Oh, just gone.
just
Just like-
straightly just.
we were like, we were like, if I'm the Jedi, if I'm the Jedi, if I'm the Jedi Masters that are around him that night when they go back to the ship, because it's later that they come back, I would say,
can I-
Corbin, can I talk to you for a
can't
second?
talk. Just
Sit this one out tomorrow.
He-
in
he
the
said-
ship because I'm a little worried that they're just going to turn.
rumor
you're going to be dangerous.
Rumor has it he went later and says, "I
We
think
were
I'm
like-
ready for the trials." They said, "Whoa, no, no,
Whoa,
no,
whoa.
no."
Not only,
It's like
not
you're-
only
like
you,
That
you
that
are,
Jedi braid of yours is gonna have to touch the ground before you're ready for the
You turned
trial.
to
you are
pudding.
not only not a Padawan, you are a youngling again. You are going back to the very beginning.
Actually, we're gonna retest you,
Yes, we are.
They showed a lot of restraint to not just zap them after that.
Yeah.
man.
That was-
But so yeah, that
I
was
thought
funny.
that
I
was
was
funny
like,
'cause we were
"Are
like,
you
But-
serious?
Like, dude,
Are
that-
you serious?
funny is-
Torben, get up."
maybe we shouldn't have brought a Padawan on
Oh
this
my
mission.
goodness.
Maybe.
It's funny you say that
Yeah.
because we did joke about that when we watch it. But the more I've thought about it, one of my
They have some dark
scenario
evil
or predictions might include some of that. But yeah, let's get into that then.
They actually could have-
before we.
I think they might have
there. Yeah,
because they teased
Yes.
that was possible.
Quirrell has now had some control over the Jedi that pushed him to do things.
Yes,
Yeah,
and so
Is that what you're gonna say?
should we get to the moment?
I
Should we
think
get to
there's
the
a
fire
couple.
moment?
There's a couple ways. Yeah, we'll dive into it. There's a couple ways I see.
or
what I
we
see
think
happening.
actually happened.
And I'll just spit out a couple things and not say everything, so you guys can kind of elaborate. I'm sure we have similar thoughts. One, I think there's a reason why Soul is coming off as the most maybe level-headed, maybe mature in his counseling,
Mm-hmm.
his compassion for
Mm-hmm.
Osha, their connection. Because
my
there's a
favorite.
reason why I don't think he has portrayed any guilt of what happened that night or that in that scenario. Because when things went down, he was the one that was not with the other Jedi
Yeah.
and went to go find Osha and Mae.
Yeah.
Now, that decision happened. He was able to save Mae and wasn't able to save or sorry, was able
Yeah.
to save Osha, not able to save Mae, and then that's from their perspective. They save, they get out. That's the rest of their story
Yeah.
from what happened.
Yep.
And there's a reason why he's not guilty of everything. But that does explain, from Mae's perspective, why he is one of the four, because she thinks
He disappeared, but
all four
yeah.
of these Jedi came
just wasn't
in
there.
and did something.
Yeah, they would
from
all be
her
alive
view-
if the Jedi hadn't shown up.
If
there
they
and did
didn't
that.
show up. Now, I do think it's possible that when he went left to go do that, that the Jedi either, I think we'll get another flashback explaining this, but something happened in that moment. Either
Yes.
I don't know if I'd say as far as the Jedi just deciding, hey, we're just gonna wipe these people out. That doesn't sound quite
Mhm.
like them.
Mm-hmm.
But something has to happen where they think they were doing something right that was not right, because it leaves Torben with this guilt. And you wouldn't feel guilty if they just walked in because they see fire and they come in to try and
that
help
would be
out.
it.
That would
If
be
they
it.
try to come
No.
help out, and
He
then
wouldn't be tortured for himself for 10 years and then
he
end up
wouldn't be
killing
tortured.
himself
And
because of this.
even if they come in and then Mother Coral is like sees them coming in and just starts attacking them, and they do kill them all out of defense, he still wouldn't feel that level of guilt
Mm-mm.
for, even if he did kill them out of guilt
Right.
or out of defense.
Yeah.
He wouldn't feel that level of guilt.
Yeah.
So something happens where they make I think something happens where they made a decision to act on that. And or my other prediction is maybe the reason he specifically feels the most guilty about what happened is because Coral may have possessed or whatever
Yeah, he couldn't overcome.
He-
influenced
something.
him again in this moment that we haven't seen
Mhm.
yet, and he wasn't strong enough to fight it, being a Padawan,
And it led to
Mhm.
the deaths.
and it led to either him turning and killing those people, and it was Coral's way of being evil
Mhm.
and trying to justify,
See?
they're terrible, we
See,
need to wipe
Mae?
them out.
Yeah.
See, Mae?
Yeah.
So I think that's an option. The other option is I think maybe something happened there, and because that happened, they did something to try and cover it up. And in doing so, that blame is put on Mae. And that's why he feels so guilty and was specifically waiting for Mae to show up. Because he knew Mae was alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they came in and just had this encounter where, he was, influenced, whatever you want to call it, and kills them, they feel guilty about it. He still wouldn't know Mae's alive. Because Soul would have said, no, I saw her die.
Yeah.
He knows Mae's alive, which means he encounters Mae again at some
Something
point.
happens after that.
Something happens where he encounters Mae, knows that she's alive, and she knows that they did something unarmed, essentially.
She says she said we don't, Jedi never attack people who are unarmed. She said,
Unarmed.
yes, you do. And
Yes, you
she's
do.
like, that's what she says when they're adults. When
So
they're
I
older. She said,
think-
yes, you do.
I think
Because she's seen a Jedi attack someone
Yeah.
who's unarmed, or in her perspective, the Jedi attacking someone.
And in that scene when Mae goes and finds Osha says, "What happened? What'd you do?" Or she says, "What
Yes.
happens?" She doesn't say, because
She's
2 minutes earlier she said, "I'm going to kill you." She didn't turn around and say, "I killed Mother." She said, "Mother's dead." And then
she
they
might
fall.
have just seen Mother get killed by
She
a Jedi.
saw
or
it
get
happen,
killed
and then
trying to-
she thinks that it was Mae's fault because she started this
Yeah.
fire, when in reality,
So on that point,
Anyway,
are we
these are-
all three of us in agreement that I think they show it on that when they go up there and she's looking back at the bodies, these bodies are not burned alive bodies.
no.
There's a pile of body or crushed by the rocks or
No,
Or
no,
it
they're
can't be
laying there.
asphyxiated either because the top is open.
Yes.
The smoke would have risen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
they didn't die of it. They didn't die of smoke.
There's
That would have been too
yeah,
fast.
I think both things are true. She did. It is true that Mae started a fire that burned down their place of living, their whatever, their home. But it wasn't the fire that killed those
No.
people. And also it makes sense why Soul doesn't feel like, maybe Soul doesn't even know the full picture.
Yeah, I don't know if he knows the full
Because it
picture.
doesn't feel, and maybe we will find out, but it doesn't feel like Soul, the way it's presented, that he intentionally knew
Or is intentionally
that
covering
Mae
up something
was
from-
alive.
Yeah.
It feels like, because he saw, and they showed us why he thought she died. They're both falling. He saves Osha.
And he said,
she goes,
and he
saw her
verbally
die.
said, I saw her
Saw her
die.
die. And it isn't until later when Osha says that she's alive, and then he says, I believe you. It's not like, yeah, I know, I've been lying the whole time. So that makes sense. That tracks. The fact that he got separated, we then hear screaming up top, or like there's something going on, and you're not sure, is it fire that's death, or that's killing them? Is it lightsabers? Is it something? The Coral, again, the Torben aspect of it is so interesting because we have no idea how Cal Naka's doing in the future. We haven't seen him yet.
Is he in isolation? Is that what we found?
Well, he
Is
was
he
he was in the woods.
Yeah, he's just gone
Yes.
back off to be to
Yeah.
get away.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
So,
it feels like he's isolated.
Yeah.
so we don't know if because it didn't seem like
Kalnaka just ripped all their arms.
didn't
off.
seem like Carrie Ann Moss or Soul. Now Carrie Ann Moss recognized. She said you
Yeah.
when she sees Mae. She says you or like and she
Mhm.
recognizes her. But we didn't get enough of her probably as in the present or the future time period to know how much she's feeling guilty about this. But we do. The thing that we know the most clearly is that Torben, this ruined his his life ended because of this.
Mhm.
Like, so what we have seen with the fire, like we talked about, is not enough that he would just feel specifically so guilty about what happened that he says, "I've been waiting for you."
Yeah.
And she comes there and she offers him absolution, and boom, he's done. So it does. So I like the theories there of either the Jedi run in because they see the fire, or because they're watching her. They run in
Yeah.
to see the fire. It could be an accident. It could be an accident. It could be something that's more though. But it could be a couple scenarios. Could be the Coven of Witches are there and they don't know about the fire yet. But the Jedi who are watching her closely, or maybe even watching her specific room, see flames. Boom. They're running in to go. There's witches who are in other places, and all of a sudden Jedi start coming running in, and they're thinking, oh my, they're attacking us.
Here they come.
Boom. And Coral, who's already like, we should just kill him, gets some of them together, and it turns into a fight all of a sudden.
Mhm.
And the Jedi had no intention of doing anything other than to come save them from the fire. It turns into this thing. That's option one. There's option two.
That would
That
track
would
with
make some sense.
that would track with him saying we thought we were doing what was right, but,
But the striking
how
of
guilty he is,
unarmed
though.
and the feeling that this show feels like a lot of what it's getting at is gonna highlight some of the Jedi missteps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And,
I think so.
And Jedi.
Well, it has
crossing
to
the
because
line, Jedi-
he said that we thought we were doing what was
we
right.
thought we
and-
were doing what was right.
Yep.
Mae says, I've seen you attack someone who's unarmed. Torben is so eaten up by it. Obviously the things we're talking
Mhm.
about. There's these things.
There's something else too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
two
So
other
it
things I'm
feels
thinking
like
about.
there's other things. And I
Yeah.
like the possession theory as well.
That's gonna. I think
they
that'll play a
tease that-
factor.
They
I
tease
think-
that for
Do you
a
remember
reason.
when?
I
do you
think that
remember
might
when?
be why he specifically feels so much guilt,
Yeah, I think so.
because he's like, I'm the one, like I wasn't strong enough.
Coral.
did it.
I think Coral had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
also that scene which seems random, but she walks into that room that has all of the electronics. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
there's like that.
Yes, the
Yeah.
generator.
There's like a reactor holding there,
reactor.
and then there's one that's faulty. You can
Yes.
see it.
Yeah,
It's
there is.
flashing,
There
it's
is.
faulty. And she's looking at this massive thing, and then they cut away.
Yeah.
We also know that they were that some evil force brought them life when they were born.
Yeah.
We know that she has a master who is a I guess a Sith.
Yeah.
He would call himself a Sith. I think that she became his I think he was the one that saved Mae when she fell.
Yeah, it could be.
I think he was there.
Ooh, I like that.
I think it will come out that
because we've wondered how
that's
did she
when-
survive that.
How did she
that's when,
survive?
because he has the ability to overcome. It's possible that she did die, and he comes in and uses dark,
Whatever.
Dark magic do something
to bring her back, and she's alive, and it becomes his Padawan, and or not his Padawan, but his his apprentice, and that their journey starts at the. I think that would be a poignant way
Yeah.
to do it. Her journey
I
with
feel
him
like-
starts at the same time Soul's journey starts with Osha.
I feel like she had to have survived. She had to have survived that fall, and seen a.
That's the thing that she
Well,
saw.
I think she saw it before.
Do you think?
she
Yeah,
saw
it's
before,
true.
'cause she
Because she
came
said.
down
Because she
and
said
she
mom's
was
dead.
dead.
She was running
She
from
saw
that.
it
She was
already.
running from that. You're right.
Yes.
and ran into Osha.
You're right.
Yeah.
She was running from that.
So
Yeah.
once she fell, something happened at the bottom that saved her life.
Yeah.
Either she died and was brought back, or saved her at the same. Wouldn't that be interesting? At the same time that Soul saved Osha, this Dark Master saved
something saved.
Yeah.
Mae, and they're on separate paths. That's destiny.
be.
Yeah.
I don't
Could
know.
be.
It's,
But I agree.
also.
Torben was
It also
was
did.
manipulated.
yeah.
I think.
I think so. It also surprised me a little bit. of how. Well, maybe not. I don't know. It seemed like her going from being upset with her sister to "I'm gonna kill you"
Yeah, that was
and
pretty
burn this
drastic,
place
pretty
down
quick.
seemed like pretty. So even that made me wonder, like,
Are there dark forces already involved?
are
She's
there already dark
involved?
forces
Already
involved? Is
influenced
Coral already involved in what's going on? Like,
Well, also
I don't know.
is the very fact that she's created by, let's say this is some dyad of the
She was
Force
born into
situation of
corruption.
born into
Yeah,
light,
yeah,
born
that's
into
just
the
it.
dark, that there is also something unnatural about
yeah.
when her emotions and her anger
I
takes
mean,
over.
Sith speaks in absolutes.
Yeah, well,
And-
exactly.
and-
No, when
and-
her
with me,
anger
you're my
takes
enemy.
over, it isn't supposed to be like a normal person.
and
getting
she was
upset.
the
It's
one-
straight to I see red.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
And
yeah.
she was the one that actually went through completed the ritual.
That's true.
It's true.
Too.
She did the ascension.
You're not for me. You're my friend. You're my enemy.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Only
There's a
Sith
lot
and
there.
I deal
But
in
isn't
absolutes.
it great?
There's a
Okay,
lot
so
there.
people not necessarily love the show. Some people. Isn't it great we're having this kind of a dialogue about a Star Wars show?
That's
We're
the
talking
thing.
about how many ifs and what ifs and
See, I love
scenarios.
it.
That is
I
the
love
thing
We don't
I love
get
so
that.
much about this show.
We don't
is
get that normally. It's cool.
even with shows that I've loved and some shows that we've seen recently in
Yeah,
Star Wars
discussions
that
don't
I've
sound
really
like
liked,
this.
we don't. I mean, we're going and we're like looking. I'm like, oh wow, we've been going this
How many
long. for a
theories?
while.
Here's the
How
thing.
many
It
theories?
feels like I'm trying to not say everything that I have to
Yeah.
say
Oh, yeah.
because it feels like we're just go on for 3
I
hours.
love
which-
Mando.
I love Mando. I love Ahsoka. There's some episodes in Ahsoka that even though I really like the show, that I'm like, I know for a fact Thrawn doesn't die here.
Mhm.
And so I have to watch knowing
Enjoy it for
I
what
know
it is.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that
yeah.
Thrawn doesn't
But the
die.
mystery's not there.
Because I know that they've already announced a Thrawn, like there's going to be a movie, there's
Yeah.
going to be all this stuff.
Right.
And so there's some of it that you feel like, oh, because where this feels so fresh that we know just based on books, we know a little bit of the time period that came a little bit before this, but like the end of the High Republic, where we're introduced to new characters across the board, to a mystery and witches and things that are very new. We've seen Night
The
Sisters.
biggest
but we
name
haven't seen
dies in the
this.
first 5 minutes.
The biggest
First
name
12
that
minutes.
they've been promoting and all this, and you're like, I like the fact that
Yeah.
immediately you're
very
like,
cool.
what are we in for?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I like watching shows. I don't ever like watching like there's always, whether it's a show or a movie where you know, okay, this is supposed to be a dangerous war situation, but I know those 4 people are going to make it.
Yeah, Tom Hanks
I
isn't
can just
going
tell.
down on the
He's
beach.
not going down. Yeah. But I like a show where you don't know, like, oh, is this the main character? Is that the main character? Is this person?
Andor
Yeah,
had an
and-
element
and-
to that.
And I
Yeah.
love like Andor, Mando, Kenobi, Ahsoka. We have predictions on all of those, but these feel different because
This is
it's
deep. This is
solving
really
a
deep.
mystery.
And there's twists and
There's twists, there's
Mhm.
turns, there's clues that are being left there.
Mhm.
So it is because of the clue aspect. It feels like we're solving a mystery along with the
There's the
Jedi.
thread where they're talking about,
Yeah,
which is also funny because just in general, like that's a very clue. Just even the term, like that's very murder mystery esque.
It is.
Pull the thread and like the
That's
thing
right.
unravels, and you like.
yeah,
So even the fact that they're doing that, like
Yeah.
using that as their term for the Force.
yeah.
In talking about like, well, if you pull, and she even says like, if you want to pull a thread, pull a thread. Like
Mhm.
it's gonna change some stuff. I just like the way the show is diving in. The show has been very good, and I think one very good thing about it, along with the mystery stuff, is I like a lore heavy show. I'm not saying everyone has to. Andor is like the opposite.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a ton of lore stuff. It's not a ton of.
It's not.
But I love when we do get a show that's like, yeah, let's get into some of the weirdness or like the Star
Explain to
Wars.
me how you
mythical
misunderstand
stuff.
the Force.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell me
yeah.
how you misunderstand it. Let me hear how they misunderstand
Well,
it.
they
Yeah,
some
that's
some
pretty
people
cool.
like to they'll refer to it as the Force, and they think they can wield it.
Yeah, right.
But it's not
The-
about wielding; it's about the power.
It's about
That's
the
right. It's not
power.
about
and
good or
who's
evil.
Who's a yeah? Not,
It's about power.
about
and who-
power and who's able or who's allowed to
who's
use
allowed
it.
to use it.
allowed to use it.
I thought
It's
that was a
just-
cool perspective.
It
So,
was.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff. We're excited.
Also, a lot of people saw it. I had the tweet that Star Wars premiere views
So the highest. Yeah.
5 days. At least this was early on. It said 5 days on the premiere of the Acolyte had 11.1 million views,
All right.
which was a lot. And
Gotta feed the mouse.
Love it.
it's I don't know what it's been since then, but
Mouse gotta eat.
Love it.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it a lot.
It's
I'll-
been
wait.
great.
I can't wait to see where
I'm
it's going.
I'm pulling the thread. I'm excited to see it
Pull
unravel.
the thread.
But it's been fun. I mean,
Whoa, Nate's
we're
completing
only-
his ascension.
Ooh.
Never,
Whoosh,
never,
whoosh,
never.
whoosh, whoosh.
George. Hey,
Hey, do your witch scream.
I loved it. We
I
have
love-
life.
By the
Out
way,
of nowhere, like, hey, I'm giving a
Yes.
speech here. Can you cut down on the
I know.
jokes?
Yes.
It did feel out of nowhere.
Please pipe down on the
I
back.
did love that. That's like
It
it's
scared
getting
me.
voodoo-y, witchcrafty. I'm going,
Ooh.
ooh, and then
It
I'm
was
getting
darker.
just
It
as-
was
Oh,
darker. It was
man.
spooky.
And then I'm just as on edge, if not more, when the Jedi are like, "Yeah, give us the children, come with us," or like,
Right.
not like good. We're taking them, but like you have to present the children.
You
Like,
have
even
to.
that
I know.
is like, yeah, the Jedi don't take children, but you
Kinda
also
like chitty chitty bang
demanded.
bang.
We know you are hiding children. You will present them to us right now. Even that, you're like, whoa, easy.
I know we got to.
Yeah.
Let me give a quick shout out to Eli.
Eli.
First 5 minutes of the show, you're guilty of murder. He goes, he's probably got a twin sister. I was like,
I love it.
huh, that might be true.
That's awesome.
There's literally,
That's it.
we're watching.
That's
She's
so
probably got a
good.
twin, looks just like her twin sister. Okay, he's 7.
That's awesome.
Pretty good.
Love it.
There you
Well,
go.
Eli, who's the man in the
Yeah,
mask?
tell us, was it Colonel Mustard? Was
Yeah.
it
Yes,
Mrs.
Colonel Mustard.
Peacock?
I know we're wrapping, so this is the last thing I'll say. Funny tweet has nothing to do with this other than it's Star Wars.
All right.
But someone tweeted out and said, dying at the fact that Boba Fett was so popular that they decided that there was an entire planet of Boba Fett's. And then George said, yeah, right, and Boba Fett isn't from there. That's so big. Boba Fett was so popular. They
A whole
created
planet's of-
Mandalorian, a whole planet of them. And then George afterwards
Because
goes,
like, he wasn't
yeah,
from
but he's
there.
not from there.
He's not
It's
from
just,
there.
like, just undercut it all.
So
I
great.
just love that. That's George's relationship with like EU and different stuff.
It
too.
is.
Awesome.
It's just like, yeah, no. And people were like, dude, this is awesome. What if there was a whole planet of Boba Fett? She's like, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Oh,
But
and
he's
now that
not-
you create that, he's not from there.
He's not from there.
Yeah.
He didn't do that.
Where's he from?
It's
Ah,
just
he's not from
different.
there. It's just
McClunky means
Somewhere
Colonel.
over in,
Yeah. It's
Camino.
it's been
Camino.
great so far. I've been loving the show. I'm excited to see where things go. As always, let us know your thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let us know your predictions. There's a lot to predict. A lot of clues, as we said, being left behind. So let us know your thoughts. What you're looking forward to. How are you liking the High Republic on screen? It's been exciting. So let us know. If you made it this far, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and smash the notification bell. Tell a friend about us here at Star Wars, guys. We will see you guys in the next episode. We'll be doing Acolyte reviews.
Acolyte.
Ooh, let's go.
Catch you in the next one. And as always, may the Force be with you.
You took my quote. Life. Just the chance.
Finding Nemo.
They all
reason-
just start chanting.
For some reason, I almost went Gene Wilder there. I created life.
Hooga, 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 chaka, hooga, chaka, hooga, chaka, hooga.
Oh, it's working.